Mount Rushmore has been a point of contention over the last week, and it is with great sadness that I announced that it's canceled. Not because they didn't decide to erect the face of my dog, Ernie. No, it's because President Trump decided to speak there. On July 3rd, President Trump traveled to South Dakota. He gave somewhat of an Independence Day themed message. If you haven't actually listened to the speech, it's not that bad. I mean, there are certain parts where you listen to it and you're just like, let's get that Trump spin. Sometimes it, reminds you like, holy shit, Donald Trump is actually the president of the United States. There are times where I'm like, how the hell did he become president? It's still, in many ways, still unbelievable how he did it. I mean, he honed on this new far left fascism that he says demands absolute allegiance, and that if you don't speak its language, if you don't perform its rituals, if you don't recite its mantras and follow its commandments, then you will be censored, banished, blacklisted, persecuted, and punished. Interestingly enough, whatever Trump said in that particular part of his speech isn't actually wrong. There's a lot of truth to it. There is this small but very powerful contingent on the left that's no longer interested in being open-minded. Like 10 years ago or so, at least when I was a little bit more liberal, one of the key distinctions that was being made between whether you're a liberal and a conservative, this ethos that existed among these two political philosophies, if you want to call it that, is that if you were liberal or progressive, you were considered open-minded. And that obviously you're open-minded to hearing other people's, being around people of different color, ethnicity, sexual preference, sexual orientation. And the talking point was always that conservatives are closed-minded, that they weren't willing to surround themselves with people who are different from them. And now the tables have completely reversed. My, how the turntables. Quote Michael Scott, man, I'm such an idiot. But in essence, if you've ever had an opinion or said or done anything that is objectionable by today's standards, I'm not talking about saying the N word. Obviously, that's bad all the time. I'm not talking about like sexual harassment. That's bad all the time. I'm talking about like having views that by today's standards are considered problematic. I mean, you could look for something, just an example, just something nearly as mundane as, say, loving America or being patriotic or, loving Mount Rushmore. That's problematic by today's standards. And there is no room for progress. There is no such thing as salvation. There's only punishment. It's like a religion in and of itself. And I can tell you it's actually fascinating. Since the 2016 election, political preference, at least on dating apps, or at least what people find in a dating partner or a partner in life, what's supplanted religion is people's politics. And that's the most important thing for a majority, or at least that was the number one thing that people looked for in terms of what they find in the partner, was what were their politics. That is supplanted religion. That is huge. Politics is now more important than religion in terms of whether you decide you want to spend the rest of your life with that person. Not understanding that obviously people's politics change over the course of time. I mean, everybody has the ability to evolve and have, form new opinions, whether they be liberal, conservative, or any other part of the spectrum. That being said, gotta listen to Trump's speech. At least, listen to the speech if you haven't already, and make up your own mind. Because if you listen to the media elite, you would never get the impression that they got. It's almost as if that they pre-wrote all of their articles and just filled it in with their particular quotes that they wanted to cherry pick from Trump. Like you have the New York Times calling it dark and divisive. So going through some parts of his speech, this is how some people in the media, this is how the media elite have framed things within Trump's speech. Okay. So you got Brian Stelter tweeting, Fox is framing the morning after Trump's dark and divisive speech at Mount Rushmore, why the New York Times was wrong to describe the speech that way. Then you have the Washington Post writing, at Mount Rushmore, Trump exploits social divisions, warns of left-wing cultural revolution in dark speech ahead of Independence Day. Then you have ABC in the tweet writing, President Trump pushes racial division, flouts virus rules at the foot of Mount Rushmore. Then you have MSNBC in the tweet calling Mount Rushmore a symbol of white supremacy, quoting a Lakota tribe member, Nick Tilson, who also went on to say, when you carve out 4 white men who were colonizers who committed genocides against indigenous people, and for that to be okay in society today is fundamentally wrong. Then you have CNN quoting Maeve Reston, who wrote this piece, in a jaw-dropping speech that amounted to culture war bonfire, President Donald Trump used the backdrop of Mount Rushmore Friday night to frame protesters as nefarious left-wing mob that intends to end America. Then you have Dean Obeidallah, who writes, let's be clear, Trump in his speech at Mount Rushmore declared war on all those who aren't loyal to him, saying we don't love America and literally called us fascists. Trump is a dangerous, dangerous man whose 2020 campaign strategy is to inspire violence. Then the Los Angeles Times, writing, at Mount Rushmore, Trump uses 4th of July celebration to stoke a culture war. NPR, writing, on the eve of Independence Day, President Trump delivered a speech at Mount Rushmore National Memorial condemning protesters who want Confederate statues and monuments removed, as well as what he called a new far-left fascism. Then you have Aaron Rupar from Vox.com in a tweet writing, Trump offers some remarkably overheated rhetoric. Quote, there is a new far-left fascism, as I said before, that demands absolute allegiance. This left-wing cultural revolution is designed to overthrow the American Revolution. Seth Abramson, writing, opposition to Mount Rushmore has to do with the land on which it was built, not a movement to say there should be no statues of any founders anywhere. And as for those mentioning 2 statues taken down by a few randos in Portland, is that the movement Trump described? Then, of course, you have Jennifer Rubin writing, WTF. Quote, those who seek to erase our heritage want Americans to forget our pride and great dignity so that we can no longer understand ourselves or America's destiny. End quote. To which she writes, the heritage of the Confederacy? The point is, everybody seems to think that Trump was stoking the flames of at least Confederate generals and having sympathies for the Confederacy. Tammy Duckworth, senator from Illinois, seemed to hone in on that about his speech. All of them didn't have anything. And then Trump tweets this shit. Has Bubba Wallace apologized to all those great NASCAR drivers and officials who came to his aid, stood by his side, and were willing to sacrifice everything for him, only to find out that the whole thing was just another hoax? That and flag decision has caused lowest ratings ever. I don't know what is going through Trump's head in that. He's given the pass to basically all of his critics to basically say he's promoting and has sympathies for the Confederacy. It's a legitimate criticism now. He has no leg to stand on. Before, everything was, that's misguided criticism. He wasn't talking about Confederate generals. He was talking about American heritage, talking about our founding fathers. And now that's all gone to shit. I don't know what to tell you. It's very tough to try to have Trump say, it's very difficult to defend Trump for not saying that he's talking about Confederate symbols and statues and, their legacy, when he's constantly tweeting and saying stuff that seems to suggest he's supporting the Confederacy, the statues and monuments that they have. I am not a Trump defender. I am only trying to get to the truth of the matter. And that was the truth up until Trump tweeted that bullshit on Monday morning. But getting back to Mount Rushmore, if we looked at how they're characterizing it, Mount Rushmore, in 2016, Bernie Sanders traveled there. CNN did a news package on him. And this is what they had to say from that news package.
This is our country at its very best. What an incredible achievement.
Visiting Mount Rushmore today, Bernie Sanders taking in the majesty of the moment, this monument to four great American presidents.
Just the accomplishment and the beauty here. It really does make one very proud to be an American.
Sanders has his own mountain to climb.
And this is what they had to say in the lead up to Trump's speech at Mount Rushmore.
Kicking off the Independence Day weekend, President Trump will be at Mount Rushmore, where he'll be standing in front of a monument of two slave owners and on land wrestled away from Native Americans, told that be focusing on the effort to, quote, tear down our country's history.
What changed from then until now? Who's in office? Who's the president of the United States? Donald Trump obviously is not your traditional Republican president. And he's certainly against the establishment. But he has pushed people on the left so far off the deep end that they're now anti-American simply to own Trump. And you have to just remember the logic in all of this, and that there really isn't any. It's whatever Trump is in favor, the left is against. And whatever Trump is pushing, they hate it. It's just nonstop. And if you got Joe Biden in the Oval Office, sure, maybe that rhetoric would tamper down. Or it might get heated up. I don't know. I don't have the power of foresight. I'm not an oracle. I'm not Nostradamus. But in essence, this is where we've gotten ourselves. Is that it's no longer okay to be proud of America or proud of its achievements while still acknowledging the fundamental flaws that still exist in our nation. That's what being a fair weather fan is all about. Is that right now, those fair weather fans of America on the left have really shown their faces. They've played their hand. They make it clear that they're not proud to be American unless they have someone they approve of running the country or promoting their agenda. In which, I'm of the belief that you can be proud of America regardless of who's in office and be proud of its achievements, so long as, of course, there are things that America has done that even in my lifetime are objectionable. And look, in spite of all that, in spite of, say, like the years of George W. Bush, who I vehemently despise as president, whether it was like the War on Terror, the Patriot Act, his handling of Katrina, and a lot of things, I'm still proud to be an American. I don't think anyone should find that to be a controversial statement, but it's 2020, and I could very well be canceled for that.